हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनेति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चातदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि श्री श्री गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 31st Chapter, Text 3. मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्यायम् मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्ययम् मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्याम् भावांग्री आद्यांग विग्रह भावांग्री आद्यांग विग्रह नखलोमास्ति चर्माणि नखलोमास्ति चर्माणि लिंग छिद्रो भवस्त्रिभिः लिंगा छिद्रो भवस्त्रिभिः मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्याम् भावांग्री आद्यांग विग्रह नखलोमास्ति चर्माणि लिंगा छिद्रोद्भवस्त्रिभिः। Please chant. मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्याम् भावांग्री आद्यांग विग्रह लिंग छिद्रोद्भवस्त्रिभिः। मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्याम् नखलोमास्ति चर्माणि लिंग छिद्रोद्भवस्त्रिभिः। मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्याम् लिंग छिद्रोद्भवस्त्रिभिः। वैष्णवीस। मासेन तु शिरोद्वाभ्याम् भावांग्री आद्यांग विग्रह नखलोमास्ति चर्माणि लिंग छिद्रोद्भवस्त्रिभिः। मासेन within a month, two, then shiraha, a head, dvabhyam, in 2 months, bahu, arms, angri, feet, adi, and so on, anga, limbs, vigraha, form, nakha, nails, loma, body hair, asthi, bones, charmani and skin, linga, organ of generation, chidra, apertures, udbhava, appearance, tribhi, within 3 months. Translation. In the course of a month, a head is formed, and at the end of 2 months, the hand, feet, and other limbs take shape. By the end of 3 months, the nails, fingers, toes, body hair, bones, and skin appear, as do the organ of generation and other apertures in the body, namely the eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and anus. There's no purport. I'll read the next one. Translation. Within 4 months from the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely chyle, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, come into existence. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt. At the end of 6 months, the fetus enclosed by the amnion begins to move on the right side of the abdomen. Purport. When the body of the child is completely formed at the end of 6 months, the child, if he is male, begins to move on the right side. And if female, she tries to move on the left side. I'll read the next one also. This is nice purport. Translation. Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine, which is the breeding place of all kinds of worm. Purport. In the Markandeya Purana, it is said that in the intestine of the mother, the umbilical cord, which is known as apyayani, joins the mother to the abdomen of the child. And through this passage, the child within the womb accepts the mother's assimilated foodstuff. In this way, the child is fed by the mother's intestine within the womb and grows from day to day. The statement of the Markandeya Puran about the child's situation within the womb is exactly corroborated by modern medical science. And thus the authority of the Puranas cannot be disapproved, as is sometimes attempted by the Mayavadi philosophers. Since the child depends completely on the assimilated foodstuff of the mother, during pregnancy there are restrictions on the food taken by the mother. Too much salt, chili, onion, and similar food is forbidden for the pregnant mother because the child's body is too delicate and new for him to tolerate such pungent food. Restrictions and precautions to be taken by the pregnant mother, as enunciated in Smriti scriptures of Vedic literature, are very useful. We can understand from the Vedic literature how much care is taken to beget a nice child in society. The Garbhadhana ceremony before sexual intercourse was compulsory for persons in the higher grades of society, and it is very scientific. Other processes recommended in the Vedic literature during pregnancy are also very important. To take care of the child is the primary duty of the parents, because if such care is taken, society will be filled with good population to maintain the peace and prosperity of the society, country, and human race. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. What can I speak in front of so many exalted senior Vaishnavas here? Suvas Prabhu, Naikatma Prabhu, Drutakarma Prabhu. I'm just feeling like a small baby here. So in the land of Jagannath Puri, which is called Odisha in India, Odissi dance is very famous, very popular. And there lives a very popular, world-renowned Odissi dancer. And he has a small child, like 2 years old. So that small child, looking at his father dancing, he is trying to imitate his father. What is the value of that dance? Nothing. But because the father loves the child, he is getting some pleasure. By seeing the child, he is laughing, even though it has no value. My position is like that today. I'm like the small child dancing has no value, but because you're all devotees, you can still relish whatever I'm speaking, which is full of defects. I'm taking strength from Srimad Bhagavatam and Acharyas to speak on this subject matter. There is a very nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam which says that even if the speaker, every verse he speaks, even if it has defects, but because it is heard and enjoyed and relished by devotees, it is still glorified. It still has some value. Why? Because you are all devotees. You can appreciate what I am talking about. Tadvag visargo janathaga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhaddavati api namani anantasya yasvankitani Srinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. Because the Lord's name is Ananta, Namani anantyasya yasho ankitani yat. Srinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. You will still relish. So if my katha can bring some amount of pleasure, I think I'll be successful and my Gurudev will be happy. So this particular chapter is a continuation of the previous chapter where Kapila Dev is describing the result of fruitive activities and then how that jiva goes through this entire journey from being a griha medhi, deeply attached to his family, property and whatnot. And then he describes how in that life, because of his attachment, great attachment to family and life, he does so much abominable things that he ends up stealing money and then, doing all kind of sinful activities just to maintain his family and get that sense pleasure. And what was the outcome? He ends up in hell, Andha Tamishra, that's what was defined. He does so many things just to protect his family, but the outcome was so miserable, unfortunate that he ends up in Andha Tamishra. And now, this is when he spends his whole, millions of years going through the punishment in Andha Tamishra. And what is not described here elaborately is, of course, after spending time in hell, he may not get the human life immediately, because he may have to go through the animal forms as per Padma Puran and then ultimately get a human life, right? Jalajanava lakshani, stavara laksha vimsati, so on and so forth. He may be aquatics, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. But finally, he gets a human birth now. Because here in the first verse it says, Karmana daiva netrena, jantar deho upapatti, so on and so forth. When the man and woman come together, that soul gets the shelter of the semen of the man, and then his journey starts. He spent his whole, so much of life's, miserable time in Andha Tamishra. Again he comes back here and he ends up, as described in this purport. The fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine. Who would like to stay in that place? Nobody would want to stay there. But then that is how, this whole, we can say, journey of a jiva who is going through these miseries continues like this. So one may ask, why this is happening to the jiva? One can say, okay, fine, this is because of his previous karmas, his attachment to material life, so on and so forth. Yes, all that is In one sense it is correct. But what is the underlying reason the jiva is suffering? It's because of avidya, ignorance. He's just sleeping in maya, ignorant of that he is not this body, but actually a spirit soul. And is actually dharma, jaiva dharma is to be self-realized. And beyond that, to realize Supreme Lord, relationship, and then reciprocate in the relationship with seva and service. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, the story of where Aniruddha is captured by Banasura, he's taken away because of this whole pastime. Krishna comes from Dwaraka along with Balaram to recover. Of course, this is a pastime. Aniruddha is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can himself defeat anybody. But yet Krishna comes to enact this pastime. And in that pastime, there is a demon who has 3 heads and 3 legs. It's called Shiva Jwara. You can imagine somebody so maybe ferocious form. That Shiva Jwara, because Shiva is on the side of Banasura, and along with Kartika, it's a pastime. Of course, one cannot criticize Shiva because it's a pastime. It's the Leela Shakti of the Lord acting. Similarly, we don't criticize Brahma when he was illusioned, put in illusion by Krishna, and so on and so forth. Anyways, so this demon, when ultimately he was defeated by Krishna, he's praying to the Supreme Lord that how a jiva suffers in this material world. And then he mentions a very important word which is very relevant to this. He says this jiva is compared to bija roha pravaha. Bija means seed, right? What is the function of a seed? The seed gets nurturing in form of water and sunlight, and slowly it sprouts, and then it becomes a whatever, and then it becomes a tree ultimately. But what is the outcome of a tree? Again a bija. From the bija again it goes on. Then the bija again grows and again becomes a tree, gives fruits, flowers, and again a bija, and then again a tree. What this means is this is an endless cycle of just suffering. Puna puna charvita charvananam. Just chewing the chewed, chewing the chewed, chewing the chewed. Why? Because they don't have any understanding of what is the higher goal of life. Matirne Krishne parato svato va mitho bhipadyeta griha vritanam adanta gobhir vishatam tamishram puna puna charvita charvananam. Prahlad Maharaj, in his very, very sweet instructions to his schoolmates, he's saying they have completely forgotten Krishna and they are ending up in Andatamishra. He's using the same word. Why? Because they just like chewing the chewed, chewing the chewed. What does that mean? Trying to be in the illusion of that I am enjoying in this world, but again getting the same punishment, forgetting that, again coming back. So, bija roha pravaha. He is a seed, and then from that seed, it goes on. It's like an endless river. River as a river continuously goes on flowing. The jiva also keeps on suffering. It just lives here, goes down, again comes back, endless cycle. So anyways, what is the jiva's situation in this, which is so unfortunate? How can he come out of this? It's very, very difficult. And most of them, they do not want to even come out. They are still enjoying in that material world. They think they're enjoying, but they are not. And the point is, even if they go through some suffering, they get shaken for some time, temporarily, but then again they start enjoying, whatever they want to do. And this is repeated so many times in our scriptures that this situation of jiva is actually very, very miserable. Anyway, so the jiva is suffering, and here, as it is mentioned very nicely here, that he is taking a residence for many months in this place where it's full of stool and urine, and a breeding place for all kinds of worms. Where the worms are there, definitely he's getting bitten minute to minute. And he's like hands and legs completely not able to even free up his arms. He's like tied up in a small embryo with its end. Towards the end, his head is down, leg is up. He's not knowing what's going on, totally in darkness. What is that the jiva can do in this situation? Until that, okay, so some people, what they do is, when they go through suffering, they start doing, okay, let me do some good activities, charity, and through that charity, I can, get some relief from the suffering, which is true. You do some offerings to oblations to demigods or whatever it is. You do some charity also, you get some punya karma. It may compensate in some way. But then Parikshit Maharaj says, what is the value of doing that? It's like Kunjara Shauchavam. It's like an elephant taking bath. The elephant takes bath in the river, comes back again in the soil or the dust, and he pours all the dust to dry him up. What is the value of that? Because the point is, you may do all the good activities, but the bija of papa, that seed of doing sin, that is not eradicated. The seed is still there. So the tendency to commit sin will still be there even if we do all the charity. It may give you some temporary relief, but that's not a good solution. Then what is the solution? Bhagavatam says the only solution to eradicate the bija completely is Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agham Dhunvanti Kartrishyena Agam Dhunvanti Kartrishyena Niharam Iva Bhaskara. Bhaskara means sun. The darkness in this world is dissipated only by one method. And that method, when the sun comes out shining, the darkness gets dissipated completely. And this word in this verse is very, very important. It says Kartishyena. Kartishyena means it completely eradicates the seed of sin also. Because unless the seed is gone, it will again sprout. And the tendency to commit sin will continue. And the jiva will continue to stay in this sojourn of suffering, and endless suffering. And that's why Krishna calls it Dukkhalayam Ashaswatam. Anyways, what is the hope for the jiva? The only hope is Krishna Katha. But then how can he get Krishna Katha? Nobody is reading Bhagavatam. Even if this is interesting. We can say in the previous times, the access to scriptures was very, very limited. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he did not get a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita for many, many years back in the days. But now, because of Prabhupada's mercy, we have Chaitanya Charitamrita everywhere. But the point is, somebody may say, okay, fine, I may take the Bhagavatam and start reading myself and I will get that knowledge. It is like Bhagavatam is the highest fruit in the Vedic tree or Vedic knowledge. So this person can say, okay, fine, I will try to climb up this Vedic tree myself. I don't want a guru. I will try to acquire the knowledge myself. So he is going up the tree. But remember, this is the highest fruit on the branch, and the branches on the top becomes very thin. When he goes up, it may break and he may fall down completely. He may just fall down. So Bhagavatam is compared to a Mohini avatar. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary to first verse in Bhagavatam, he says, Bhagavatam is like a Mohini avatar. So how did Mohini stole the nectar from the Asuras? She was so beautiful. Krishna is so beautiful. What to talk of Krishna when he comes in a female form? They got completely bewildered. And by the sweet talk of Mohini, she took the nectar away from the Asuras and gave it to Devatas. What the point Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making is, when we try to read Bhagavatam ourselves without taking shelter of a guru, you may completely understand or misunderstand the conclusion of Bhagavatam. So for example, when Jnanis, they read Bhagavatam, they take Brahman is the ultimate realization, finish. They don't go beyond that. But that is not the fact. When karmis read, they understand or they accept that going to heavenly planets is the ultimate realization. But that is not the fact. The fact is there is something beyond that, and that is Bhagavad Jnana or the Sambandha Jnana. That there is beyond that the highest tree on the Vedic literature we can see. If we try to grab ourselves, we cannot do that ourselves. We need to take shelter of a guru, of a spiritual master, because as Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, this highest fruit on the Vedic tree is delivered in the parampara system. From the top, Krishna, Brahma, Narada, in that disciplic succession, this fruit is delivered very, very carefully until it reaches the ground and we receive it from the spiritual master. Otherwise the fruit may fall, it may break, or we may fall down from there and we don't know what's happening. We may completely misunderstand the meaning of Bhagavatam. And hence it is very, very essential to take Bhagavatam through the disciplic succession, through the spiritual master. And that's why we emphasize this point of Guru Tattva and going, because we can read Bhagavatam, but as Mohini, it may hide the meaning, it may hide the true meaning of the conclusion of Bhagavatam. Because the central point of Bhagavatam is Krishna is the supreme, even though all the forms of Supreme Lord are same. But then Krishna is put in a very, very special position, because the rasa which Krishna manifests or which we can exchange with Krishna is not available with any of the other forms. And hence Krishna is put in a very, very special place. Ete cham sakala pumsas Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mradayanti Yuge Yuge. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. This is the Paribhasha Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam. But how the jiva can understand is very, 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 very impossible, very, very rare. And that's why bhakti is very, very rare. But if somebody gets that bhakti, he becomes fortunate. So if we have that fortune of reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day in the association of devotees, in the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, how fortunate is that? This is the greatest, greatest gift anybody can get. Any fortunate jiva who gets this, there is nothing greater than this. What is that verse? I think in the 6:24 Bhagavad Gita, it says that once somebody receives this knowledge, he understands that there is nothing beyond this, there is nothing above this. So the solution to this is of course Krishna Katha, but Krishna Katha in the association of devotees, in the bona fide disciplic succession. And that Krishna Katha is the medicine for this disease which is ignorance. So that medicine is called Bhava Aushadhi. Bhava means this material world, samsara, and Aushadhi is medicine. And this verse very nicely describes, Parikshit Maharaj sings this in the first chapter of 10th canto, 4th verse I think. He says, Nivritta tarshair upagiyamanat bhavaushadashrotra manobhiramat kauttama gunanuvadat puman virajet vinapashugnat. We don't want to go in the marg of pravritti marg or nivritti marg. We have to, if we have to go in the part of nivritti, where it takes us beyond all this bhava, that is when the glorification of the Supreme Lord comes in the disciplic succession. That becomes the bhava aushadhi, the medicine, the right medicine for this disease of ignorance. That is Manobhi Ramat. It is not just a medicine, but it gives you bliss. Manobhi Ramat, it becomes your source of all the bliss. And when one gets that bliss, he identifies his true he recognizes his true identity as a soul. And that is just the beginning. That's why we call it initiation. When the initiation happens, we initiate this process of relating or developing that relationship with Krishna. And it takes time. It does not happen in a day, in years. Sometimes it takes lifetimes. We see examples of Bharat Maharaj. He was in bhava stage. He actually took darshan of Vishnu. But then because of his association with a deer, he completely lost his position. And when he was leaving his body, he thought of the deer, and he became a deer next life. But of course, Krishna takes care of his devotees. He says, my devotee will never perish. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So we should have that faith that whatever situation we are put in, we should accept that situation and continue this process of hearing Bhagavatam, serving Bhagavatam, serving devotees. And of course, the whole point of doing this is to develop attachment to chanting Hare Krishna. That is the ultimate point, because that is the cornerstone of Mahaprabhu's movement. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Namaiva Kevalam, Kevalam, that's it. But then somebody may ask, if that is the only thing, why do we do deity worship? Why do we have to read Bhagavatam? Because all these things act as a catalyst, helps us to develop more and more deeper relationship with chanting Krishna's name, because that is the only solution to all the problems of life. And I think there is so much I think we can talk about on the Harinam and all that, but I'll take a pause here, looking at the time. So just to summarize, this is a very unfortunate situation in which the jiva is put, going through so much of miseries and sufferings, because he is ignorant, he is totally helpless, in a totally helpless situation. But if he catches onto the rope of the mercy of the devotees, because he may be suffering, but if he doesn't catch the rope through which he can be pulled out of this samsara, he may never come out. So he has to have the faith, have the endeavor, and then depend on the mercy of Krishna, as we see in the pastimes of Damodar Leela. Our endeavor and perseverance, and the mercy of the Lord. Both these things are important for us to progress nicely in this path of devotional service. So I take blessings of all the Vaishnavas here to bless this unfortunate jiva, so that we can progress nicely, and I can do this seva more and more and take your blessing. So I'll stop here. Any comments, reflections, questions, I'm happy to take.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice class. I was just looking at the purport here, and a very important point on this purport was Prabhupada describes the Garbhadana ceremony. And he considers that, he identifies it as very scientific. So I was thinking, in modern society, this is unheard of. I mean, literally, there's no, they want to have good children, obviously, but they really don't understand the principle in terms of scientific understanding of how to get a wonderful child. And Prabhupada goes on further to say that when this actually exists, then this is how you feel society with, better, higher class type of individuals. And you can see in society today, that's not going on. And we can just imagine. Just being here, you can see how many people can come here that are absolutely, their minds are just lost. And they're just walking in the streets, desolate, hungry, just alone, just tormented. So for us devotees, we should be very, concerned with this. We should very much see how important that we teach people this Garbhadana type of understanding in development of children. Otherwise, human society would be defunct in terms of human life.
Yes. The Vedic literature actually teaches so many samskaras from the time before the birth, which is Garbhadan samskar, then we have the birth samskar, and then Upanayana samskar. This is totally lost now because there is no Varnashram. If Varnashram was there, yes, very good point, Prabhu. I mean, Garbhadana samskar is so important because that's where the we can say the intention to bring up the right child comes up. If that is lost, that bija is gone. But unfortunately, nobody wants to learn this. They just want to enjoy. Yeah, but if somehow or the other, if they can get exposed to Harinam, their process will start there without doubt. So hopefully, as Mahaprabhu says, Prithviti ache jato nagarati gram sarvatra prachar hoive more naam, that with the efforts of devotees trying to spread the holy name, they may not just get the samskaras, but they may get the highest fruit of the Vedic knowledge, which is Krishna Prem. So that should be our effort. We should definitely try to, I think, take this opportunity whenever we see a right opportune. We should try to educate them of the samskaras and also about the highest dharma, which is bhakti. Thank you, Prabhu. Alright, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.